Right, welcome everyone. Welcome to the latest now, the BD Ladders series of business conversations. I'm joined with Philip Turner, the CEO of Nexel, and Ben Chiriboga, the head of growth at Nexel. And it's great fun having Ben here because normally he's the one asking me questions, but we've poached a turn gamekeeper and flipped it around the other way around. And this is one that I'm really glad to have here. We're going to focus on law firms. We're going to focus on why CRM systems aren't a waste of time and money for law firms. Many people think they are. So now latest in the business conversations, we're going to dig straight into it. So starting from the top, guys, there's a degree of skepticism around CRMs, their adoption and usage across the firm. I once heard many years ago, a senior partner described a CRM as the most expensive phone directory in the history the firm has ever purchased. So are they actually necessary for law firms? Do they need one?
Absolutely. They absolutely need one. That is the answer. No. Look, we hear that all the time, that their CRM is ended up being used purely just for a phone book. And if you then have a CRM, which is like Salesforce, for example, using it as a phone book, then yes, that is definitely going to be the most expensive phone book they've ever rolled out in the firm. But why is it the case that we're getting this feedback? It's because CRM is such a broad category, and it's misunderstood and misused. And it's misused not just by firms, by law firms, but also by the vendors. Because simply, there's many vendors out there that simply provide some contact lists and address books as part of their tool, and they label it as a CRM. Hardly a CRM, right? There's so much more needed than just an address book. And then there's law firms out there that buy sales-focused tools and CRMs, like real sales, hardcore sales CRMs, like Salesforce. And most of these tools are simply not a good fit for law firm. And because of that, all the great stuff Salesforce comes with, law firms don't use, and the only thing they do use is the address book. And again, they end up with a address book that is super expensive, and then still no one really uses.
Yeah,
and that's
totally.
the real problem around it.
Totally. I'll just jump in here. It's amazing for all three of us together. And Ben, as you said, we've had the chance to talk many times, and now I'm on the other side. So it feels I can see how much pressure there is to actually be snappy here. I'll just say, everything that Phil said is completely true. And when we law firms desperately need CRMs today because basically relationships are growing exponentially. It's not even just about the relationships, it's the relationships between the relationships. Who that really, really is important today if you're going to deliver a really good client experience. So CRMs are fantastic today. They're fantastic tools to be able to show you the relationships between the relationships, especially in a hybrid world, especially in a remote world, especially in whenever you're opening up a bunch of offices all around the world. People are coming, going. CRMs are more needed than ever before.
Okay, so now we're assuming it isn't a waste of money, right? So what specific features or functions within any CRM system can actually enhance the efficiency and productivity of a law firm? Because that's really what it's about, right?
Yeah. Well, it's also about obviously strengthening that relationship, but the first part is really around the efficiency. It's the data capture. Everyone knows that a CRM is only as good as the data that's in it. And if you rely on manual data entry by lawyers, good luck. It's not going to work at the end of the day, because they're busy professionals, right? They're first and foremost, they're lawyers. They're not sales staff, but they're still at the same time tasked to manage and their client relationships and actually bring in new work into the firm, into the business. So the most important part of functionality as its core is an automatic data capture. It needs to automatically capture that for you to build the foundation of it, to have the right relationship data in the system. That's the first and most important tool what should be in it.
Yeah, totally. So I'll just piggyback back off of that, because once you have the data, there's lots of interesting things that you can start to do. At Nexel, we've thought about this as, well, once we show you who you know, why don't we show you who you don't know? Or why don't we show you who else knows who you know, or who you don't know, but who your colleague might know. Now, that was a whole lot of who's running around. But the real point is, it's not just about who you know, it's also who you don't know, but could come to go. So that's sometimes in fancy business language referred to as white space, right? Or the thing behind the thing that you don't know. And these two core features are very important. So if you take away anything, it's CRMs can not only show you who you know, illuminating you, but also who you don't know, but maybe should know. So these two things are kind of like the philosophical basis of CRMs today.
I have to say I'm impressed, Ben. I bet you're excellent at tongue twisters. That was exceptional. Look, I think it's fair to say that all of us in the BD and marketing community really do value CRMs and always plug in and use them. But to avoid that negativity at that kind of partner level, what are the potential risks and challenges that law firms may face when implementing the CRM system? How do they mitigate them? How do they get the key stakeholders on board?
Yeah, I think the first thing they need to do is rebrand it. Don't even call it a CRM. Call it something like relationship enablement, growth enablement, something like that. Most of our customers, they're asking us, please don't even call it a CRM, because most of these partners and lawyers, within their career, they've had a bad CRM experience. And because of that, as soon as they hear CRM, they already write it off before you have even started. So that is kind of the first thing we should do. Rebrand it and call it something else. And don't make it about the technology. Make it about the outcomes. That is so important, because if you make it hey, this is a CRM technology rollout, another tech rollout, we're all tech rollout fatigued nowadays. Like there's just so many systems we have to use. Tell me what is my outcome out of this, and really drive it like that. And in the case of a CRM, you can make it a revenue acceleration program, for example, where you go in and say, hey, I will help you in your practice group accelerate revenue growth, help you better understand your key clients, and help you execute your business plan. And here's a tool which we use to help us collaborate, create this transparency and efficiency around it, and let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And this is a much better way on how you can kind of implement the CRM.
Absolutely.
I'll add something here. My job is incredible because I get to speak to really cool people like Ben Paul, Phil sometimes, depending on what he's asked me to do. But it's incredible. Last week I was speaking with Dr. Larry Richard of Lawyer Brain, and I asked him what is the key to getting partners on board? What's the key to getting lawyers on board? What do you have to say? And he stopped me right there and said, that's the problem. You actually don't need to say anything. You don't need to persuade a lawyer of anything. In fact, when you try to persuade a lawyer of anything, it brings up defenses, because they're either going to take it as it's kind of like when you start playing with maybe like somebody very excitable, it triggers them to start pushing back on you initially. In fact, they think that they might actually be doing you a favor by pushing back on some of your arguments. Don't try to persuade lawyers. That's playing their game. Lovingly, of course, right? Because we're all in the same team. Try to influence lawyers. And how can you influence anybody? By basically saying, people like you do things like this. This is what you're going to get out of it. What's in it for me? Telling great stories about basic past, having other people like them tell stories about how they've done, building influence. Hey, either FOMO, other people are doing it like this, or FOMO, if you don't do it like this, you might actually mess up. So there you go. Build your influence stack rather than try to persuade them, because that's just running against the wall.
Awesome. I like it. Try not to pick a fight with a lawyer, probably not litigation.
Right. Exactly.
So how does CRM, or a growth generation system, actually contribute to better client retention and satisfaction in the legal industry?
I think, again, this is quite an easy one, because to be able to retain your clients, you even need to first know who they even are. And I think with the who knows quote from Ben before, you literally need to know who you know first. Because otherwise, who are you going to retain? And that is really important, not just on an account level, which means, the actual client brand, but really on the people level, because it's people buying from people. Like it's not brand buying or company buying from a company. It's really the people within it. And that's what you need to understand to be able to retain. And when you do have this information, you can be a little bit more proactive with the client. And that creates satisfaction, because that shows the client that first of all, you understand them, you know them, you're really there to help them. And that ultimately better retention and a better experience across the board.
Yeah. I will never, ever forget this time that I was sitting in a partner meeting, a client meeting with a partner. I was sitting in the meeting and the partner was going on, and the client was just looking at him so confused. He was like, I don't get it. And eventually the client stopped him and said, Dave, I'm sorry. I changed the person's name. Dave, I'm sorry. I don't understand. Did you not know that Bill walked in here 3 days ago and told me the exact different thing that you were just saying? You guys are completely contradicting each other. Don't you guys work at the same business, at the same law firm? I was like so far in my seat. I was just like below the table basically at that point in time. But here's the point, clients basically, they're looking for people to be one firm. They're looking for people to be aligned, not contradict one another whenever you're walking in. And truthfully, obviously CRMs can show you that because they show you not only who you know, but who you spoke to, when did you speak to them, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how the firm can really align, driving client satisfaction, driving better retention. Because let's be honest, most clients on anything except for bet the company type work, a lot of that work starts to smell, sound, and look a lot of the same, but they will remember if you're the one who came in and completely contradicted your partner that was in there 3 days ago. So there we go, client experience.
Absolutely. And look, it's an interesting part when you get into CRM, an industry-wide level. What ROI, what return on investment can law firms actually expect to see from implementing one of these, and how can it even be measured?
Yeah, I think this is a struggle most face when they do implement a CRM. How do you even show the value of it? And it is really difficult because just implementing one is not going to make the difference. Just having the technology there, even if it does passive data capture, doesn't make a difference. It really depends on how they use it and how they implement it. And if they do it well and they actually focus on it and they get buy-in from the top down, like all the way across the board, then they will see enormous ROI. How much that can be, I don't know. There's industry reports out there where for some it was 700%, for some it was 7,000%. This again shows the difference. For some it's zero because they're just not doing anything with it. So it's hard to say what it actually is. How do you measure it? Again, that is really difficult. But a way of doing it is using the CRM to actually capture the opportunities and trying to see, have these originated because of the reason that we are actually using a CRM now and having insights to these relationships. So the measuring is difficult. The ROI itself really depends on how much they actually use it. But I'm pretty sure Ben has a much better story about that as well.
I'll just go back to my previous story. The truth is that most client relationships are worth upwards of $1 million. And what was it, like Warren Buffett or somebody, whatever, said it takes 20 years to build up a reputation, but 20 minutes to basically destroy it. I mean, if you go back to the previous thing, looking really, really bad in front of a client can be measured in the tens of thousands. Now, is a CRM going to solve and make your crazy partner less crazy? No, but it will help a little bit align everybody whenever it comes to what did we speak to them about? When did I speak to them? What webinars did they go to? What newsletters are they joining? What industries have they joined? Have they moved to another firm, et cetera, et cetera? These small things that actually make you look very professional, very personalized, because you're coming with relevant information. And the truth is that you just have to look at one saved relationship, and the whole CRM probably pays itself off 10 times over, especially depending on the type of clients that you have, basically.
100%, Ben. And what you can add to that as well is it's really just the experience itself. But the biggest opportunity what law firms have currently is really cross-selling and collaborating across the different practice groups, what they're offering, the different service lines, what they're offering. Because most of professional services clients purchase, I think there was a study out there, 1.7 services. But if you actually think about on how many services law firms offer, it's probably 30 to 50 services. And there's a huge, huge opportunity to be able to facilitate more cross-selling. But without a CRM, it's very difficult to do because you don't know who knows whom across the firm. So you don't even know who are the different clients where you can actually try to introduce to the different practice groups. You don't know which practice groups are already engaged and which ones aren't. And if you drive that a little bit on your key client level and win a few pieces of work, even if it's 1, 2, 3, the CRM starts paying for itself.
Yeah,
Very, very easily.
absolutely. So that's kind of the industry piece covered off. And now we're going to go into a little bit about how Nexl actually helps law firms do better in that relationship mapping, or as we're now calling it, who knows who and who doesn't know who and who should know who and who don't we know in the who world.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. I'm actually going to get Ben to start on this one.
Okay. Okay, so I think really we like to tell this story on 3 levels. So the first is kind of coming into that data piece, really understanding who do we actually know. I mean, I know it's hard to sometimes I try to pitch my the CRM to my father-in-law, who's a very successful lawyer, right? And it's him. He's been with the partnership for 40-something years. He's practiced with his partners for over 30 years. And he looks at me and goes, "Of course I know who I know. What do you mean I don't know who I know?" And I go, "Oh, okay, really? Can you tell me who are, when's the last time you spoke to your top 10 clients and how many times you spoke to them 6 months ago or 7 months ago?" And obviously, the conversation shifts and he starts, asking me like whether or not like, I want a drink, or pushing me back on something else, right? So, of course, once you press people on what they actually know at the end of the day, the thing starts to get a little bit trickier. But that's the first level. We help people understand who they actually know. From there, we get into this who knows who meta level, which is we can show you who you don't know, but maybe should know, who your firm knows that you don't know, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how we start opening up this idea of what we call relationship intelligence and really mapping the entire network of the entire firm. And then the last is, how do you get people to actually work together? And this is the piece that's novel to Nexl specifically at this time and nobody else really is thinking about, which is once I show you who you know, and then once I show you who you don't know, but who you should know, why don't we go ahead and start collaborating with one another to actually start getting this move forward? Because information is nothing. Information plus action is actually everything. And we're trying to put all of this in one place. Show you who you know, who you don't know, so that you can go out and get some stuff done, basically.
That really sums it up. This is really it. And that important piece is really this collaboration. So we give you all the data you can think of and what you need to actually get stuff done. But then we have to give you a space where you can do it, because we're not in a single player mode anymore. If you think about a law firm and anything they do, it requires multiple people. It requires your BD team, your marketing team to help with any kind of initiative that you're trying to run with your clients. And then it's partners, but then also across practice groups. Especially a lot of firms are going out by industry now, not just by practice line anymore, practice groups themselves. And to be able to do that, you need to facilitate collaboration. We provide the transparency and a place to then facilitate that collaboration to get stuff done. And we usually don't say stuff.
Yeah. But how did you develop like Nexl as a CRM that is you adopted and seen as a key system in your clients' growth?
It's been a long journey with lots of ups and downs, but I think our key differentiator is we go extremely deep in the legal industry. We're a vertical CRM, so the only people we're focusing on are lawyers and law firms, no one else at this time. And we go extremely deep. So we have a very good understanding on what law firms actually need, their day-to-day. Everyone here at Nexl, especially around the leadership level as well, has over a decade experience in working with law firms. And because of that, we understand their day-to-day issues and the things what they really need. And we have focused on just providing that. We don't come with all the bells and whistles like these massive systems like Salesforce come, but we come with the ones that actually matter. And that makes it so much easier because it doesn't come as an overblown system. It makes it so simple. And we keep developing it by simply listening to the market. We listen to the lawyers and what they're complaining about. And my first ever role in a law firm was at the service desk in IT, literally listening to lawyers complaining about their systems. So I have a lot of experience on hearing about the tech problems and how to make it better. And we've just transformed that in trying to create something that fits the industry. Because if you ask a partner, what do they want out of their CRM? It's super simple. It's usually something that automatically keeps track of all of my contacts and my relationships. and then something that simply reminds me to stay in touch with them.
Totally.
Simple, right? And if you give them that, this is great. And then you build other tools on top of it, obviously around collaboration, the relationship insights, to facilitate this whole go-to-market motion for BD and marketing as well. You have a great system that just simply works.
Absolutely. Yeah. And look, I think the next thing I'd like to really ask you before, because that's a great story there, is kind of, can you give us some case studies or examples of where Nexl's actually worked and made a difference in a law firm?
Many. We have many. Look, our mission is really to change the way in how law firms grow. And the only way in how you can grow in a law firm is through relationships. It's a relationship-based business. And we are showing this every single day all across the globe with law firms. What are some concrete examples? Like by simply giving access to up-to-date contacts, one of our law firms was able to increase their client engagement on their marketing emails by 500%.
Nice.
Just by simply allowing them to better understand who they know, segmenting their contacts so they send the right contact to the right people at the right time. And a 5x increase in client engagement. Great. Then others we have helped execute their industry plans and really go to market as an industry team, not just as a practice group. And if you think about that, that's really hard to do because it's so many different partners that need to work together to go to market at the same time with the same message. And that is something what we have done as well by providing the transparency, but then the collaboration tools to keep people accountable, focused, and working together to execute those. Ben, do you have a few other examples?
Those are great. Yeah, those are great examples. And actually, this is a really good question because I was going through some of our use cases and some of our client testimonials. So I read this every now and then whenever I'm having a bad day, which is almost never, honestly, at Nexl. I'm being the truth. I was paid to say that. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, I was. Whenever I'm having a bad day, I actually go and read some of the testimonials and it lightens up my day. And today I was reading Jaime Sanchez de Castillo of GSA, I think so. I think that's his last name. And he basically just said this, which was before he never knew who else he knew inside the firm. With Nexl, it feels like a PlayStation 5. And today he basically says that he uses Nexl more than he uses his email. And this is a lawyer and business developer. So he's a lawyer who turned into a business developer. And he basically says that now it's his tool. He starts his day with Nexl. And that's what at the end of the day, that's what we really focused on kind of developing. We didn't go out to develop the next great CRM, even though, I think that we're doing that and doing really good things. We really went out to develop a system that helps lawyers and law firms really understand their relationships. And if we sort of kept that in the middle, does this help a law firm develop a relationship? That was it. But yeah, I think that's like the thing that always takes away, now, instead of going into email to manage relationships, they go into Nexl to manage relationships.
Yeah. And we've even had comments from managing partners where they got lost in the system, not because it's complicated, but the wealth of information, they really dug deeper and deeper and deeper, and all these relationships are connected, and they just lost themselves in it and created new opportunities. And they literally sent us an email and said, I love using Nexl. When was the last time you've actually heard a managing partner say, I love using Nexl, or any lawyer per se?
Yeah.
A CRM. So this is just, incredible.
Absolutely fabulous. Philip, Ben, thank you very much. Your passion came through, and I think started off with the premise proving that CRMs aren't a waste of money, and we've actually absolutely proved that with your great answers today. Thank you for being awesome guests. We will have links to Nexl and where you can find out more information in the description box. Thank you for joining in on the BD Ladders Business Conversation series. Do remember to like and subscribe on that button there, as we always say. We'll be bringing more information around the world of professional services and law firms, BD, marketing and industry news. So once again, thank you to our guests.
I will be subscribing.
I have already subscribed. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.